Today I want to try something a little different than normal. A lot of comments have been asking me if I'm going to be adding any of the boss fights or chase sequences into my Secret of the Mimic map, and the short answer is yes. Kind of? I mean, obviously I have made parts of it, as otherwise I wouldn't be making this video. However, it isn't one-to-one as you see in game, but I do think it's a very good recreation to fit into this Minecraft map. With that being said, I have spent the last few days recreating different sequences from the Jackie chase sequence, and that's exactly what I thought I'd go over in today's video, where instead of making it as I go along, I've actually already completed the entire thing. Now obviously at this current state in time, this map is still work in progress, which is why I'm using night vision, there's no proper lighting setup, and there's also a few other gameplay mechanics that I want to add eventually, however aren't priority or they don't have to do with what I'm currently working on. But if we go ahead and walk into the birthday showroom, we are going to find the Jackie box, and there is a suspicious button in front of it, which wasn't here before, but it does actually now serve a purpose, so let's go ahead and push it. And that's a good start. You know, we want Jackie to actually be in the map. Now, for those of you who have been watching my last few videos or paying attention to my thumbnails, you will notice that this Jackie model is a bit different than the ones that I've shown off previously. In fact, it has not even half as many armor stands connected to it. For those of you that don't know, for basically all of my maps, I like using armor stands to create models. No, I don't use display entities or anything like that. I like mixing different armor stands together to make it look like the creature I'm trying to recreate. Not only is there a model though, but it is obviously moving back and forth with an animation with some sound effects to go along with it, which is very important as I don't just want a still object to represent Jackie here. So this is really just the first part. This Jackie model is just going to sit here. This is not an active free roaming model that's going to walk around the build. However, we will get to that later, but this is really just the start of it. Now, because I don't want armor stand models to be loaded in the map the entire time, that's obviously going to cause some frame drops. What we are able to do, if we would like to, is push the button again, which is then going to kill off all those armor stands and put the box back in its closed state. Then of course, if I want Jackie to pop up again, I just need to push the button again. It's going to go through the whole sequence, and then the model actually appears above the box again. But let's go ahead and take a look at the commands for this, which it looks like there's a lot, and you know, in fairness, there probably is, but this wall of command blocks right here is purely just for the animation side of things. I'm not going to be going into this as it is a very uninteresting process, to be honest with you. The entire note block song is actually inside of these command blocks right here, where instead of using note blocks and repeaters to play out the song, I'm using different play sound commands inside of a command block, with it using a scoreboard timer to play the different notes. So when the scoreboard matches 65, it plays that one. When it matches 75, it does that. Now you'll notice that near the end of the song, it actually has a sort of stinger starts to build up, and that is what this one right here is doing, which is using a bell resonate sound. This is a very unusual sound, but it helps out a lot when it comes up to building tension in your maps. It's not the first time I've used it, but I think it is a very useful one when building maps like this. Other than that, we of course have the two builds of the box itself, whether it's opened or closed, and then this command block chain right here is actually what spawns in those armor stands to represent Jackie. So once the note block song ends and this scoreboard timer matches 115 to 116, it then powers all of these command blocks right here, which is then going to summon each individual armor stand for every limb. So for example, right here you can see that if we start at the very top, we have the statue for Jackie, body 1, the statue for Jackie, head 1, head 2, head 3, body 2, so on and so forth. And now that I've mentioned this, you might be able to see where I've used different armor stands for the different parts of Jackie, where you can see each arm are the legs of an armor stand, where I've used leggings and boots to represent the shoulders and the hands, and then of course leggings for the arms themselves. But I think that my favorite part about this has to be some of the play sounds I've used for this. Specifically when Jackie is swaying back and forth, I want there to be some creaking noises, almost like gears and mechanical pieces are moving around. And since Minecraft doesn't really have many of those pieces, I need to think outside the box, which isn't a Jackie pun, but I'm going with it anyway. So you can see here when Jackie is swaying back and forth, obviously it's using the same scoreboard timer as before. You can ignore all of these top parts. I really just need you to focus on the play stand that I'm using, which is a spyglass. Again, not an item you would think of very often, but because a spyglass is made up of multiple pieces, all of those parts extend and hit each other, which is then going to give off that mechanical noise that I need. Especially when I decrease the pitch, it works out in my favor and fits Jackie perfectly. But that's enough of this Jackie for the time being. We will be seeing more of her later on, but for the time being, let's just go ahead and close up her box. So the next part in the sequence is going to be all the way in the manager's office. So if we go ahead and walk over here, you can see that the data diver input actually spawned in. And this is something that I've gone over in not only my last video, but also a live stream, where again, I am prioritizing optimization in this map. So I want as little entities in this map as possible. In fact, if we take a look right now, there are just under 500, which sounds like a lot, but in fairness, most of those are still just item frames or other things. Of course, there are some other armor stands used in the map currently. However, in the coming days, I'm going to try to fix as many of those as possible. But either way, when we walk up to this door, the data diver input is going to appear, so I can get my data diver out, interact with it, and it's then going to open up the door. But before I do, you can probably hear something behind this door, and that is because we have our next armor stand model added to this map, which is the Digi Typer. I actually really like how this guy turned out. I wasn't sure how I wanted to go about doing it, but once again, by using a mix of different armor stands, I was able to recreate his model really well, if I have to be honest. Something I've only started doing recently in this map is using helmets as the bodies of different characters. For all of the mascot suits, pretty much every single one uses this technique, where by taking a facing forward helmet and a backwards facing helmet and combining them together, it gives you a square shape, and if you move them even closer together, it can give you an almost rectangular shape, which fits perfectly for the Digibot here. Of course, his limbs are still made up by using the leggings of different armor stands. Those are my preference as they work extremely well. His head is of course another custom player head, which also moves around, but what I want to show off is a smaller detail, which are the wheels on all four sides of his body, which are once again smaller armor stands, but each one has a block of coal on its head and are positioned in a way where it looks like the wheels on all four corners of his body. And since this guy is an armor stand model, it does mean that he's going to load in and unload when I get far enough away from him. So if I get out of 10 blocks away, you can see that he completely disappears, and that's because a command block has killed off every single armor stand. But then once I get within 10 blocks again, he comes right back and is doing the exact same thing he normally would. And I mean, to be completely honest with you, this guy is really just a prop. He's not going to do anything, but he is a lot of fun. I mean, he just adds a lot more character to this map. Just his little animation, the sound effects that go along with it. He's just a happy little guy, and honestly, I really like this one. I really do. He's just a fun guy. And again, it is a lot of commands, but most of it is just filler stuff. All of this right here is for the animation and the sound effects, so I won't go over those too much. But this one right here is what gives each armor stand its own armor. I obviously need armor stands to be wearing something, otherwise they're just going to be an invisible frame. So this chest right here has all of the armor pieces that the models are going to wear, and every single model in this map has one of these chests. So once I get within 10 blocks away from a set position inside the office, all of these commands are going to power here, which is then what actually spawn in all of those armor stands. Now, of course, I need all of those armor stands to be facing a certain direction, teleporting around each other, so that way it actually builds up the model itself, and that's what all of these commands here right do. So you can see that they are all centered around a singular base armor stand called DigiTyper Body 1, and is then running a teleport command to teleport each of the different limbs in a set rotation around the base armor stand model. And as for the door system, I mean, it is your classic clone command, and I've gone over this many times on not only a live stream but also in my previous videos. If you're really interested in me adding in every single door into this map, I would highly recommend you check out some of my live streams, as I've been working on a lot of the filler mechanics during those streams, as they're really just a fun thing to just hang out with chat as you guys give out suggestions while I'm adding in all of these repetitive additions. Now, behind the DigiTyper, you might have already noticed that the wall has already collapsed, which usually implies that the DigiTyper has been thrown through the wall when Jackie does that herself. Now this is where I go back to what I said at the start, where I haven't exactly done things one-to-one. I'm not recreating the entire game, I'm only recreating core features and mechanics. So since I want DigiTyper to be a permanent addition to the office, we're not going to have Jackie go all the way down this hallway, as obviously we want this door to always be accessible, but I also want DigiTyper to always be in the office. So while this is still here in the wall, we are able to go down to the chase sequence areas without changing anything else in the office. If I really wanted to, I could go ahead and add in all of those animations and sequences, but I am running on a pretty tight schedule for trying to get this map out this year, and doing all of this stuff without prioritizing the actually important things would take up a lot more time. I swear this isn't because I'm lazy, it's just because I really want to get this map out to you guys. So with that being said, I guess the next sequence is all in the underground area. So if we go ahead and jump down into this hallway here, we get instantly teleported, and that was a really nice transition you saw there. We're in a completely different build now. If you've been watching the series, you should know this. It is completely separated from the main build, but that's something I'm not going to go into again. Either way, we have now teleported to a completely different area, where now we've actually entered the chase sequence areas for Jackie. And this is where we're going to start to see a few instances of different events before we meet Jackie herself. So if I walk up these stairs, right there is our first one. I said that I hadn't added everything, but I did want to keep in key events. So we are going to see Jackie appear a few times in these tunnels before she actually starts chasing her herself. So right there, you can see there she is again, before she then teleports away. This is once again a completely different Jackie model. It uses the same base as the one that we saw in Jackie's room. However, it uses obviously a different player head, so that way we can see the mimic eyes. And it's a completely different model, so that way if Jackie is in her box all the way up in the main build, she's not going to be teleported away if someone else is all the way down in this basement here. But this is where the cool stuff happens. So this is really the intro to the chase itself. So I'm actually going to turn myself to survival for this. And if you can hear, there's already some noises of Jackie. But the first thing we need to do is open up this door. So if I go ahead and pull this lever, the door opens, and Jackie appears directly above us. Again, I wanted to keep in all of these iconic parts from the game, so that way it wasn't just a boring walk all the way to the chase sequence. But now let's go ahead and actually get into it. So I can hear Jackie around here somewhere, but let's just go ahead and get started. So she isn't going to appear there. She's right there. She jumped down right there. Okay, well, I mean, I guess it needs no introduction. Jackie is just instantly spawned in and is now chasing after me. So again, it's not scripted, but there is a Jackie chase once the Minecraft AI decides it wants to actually do what it's supposed to do. Alright, so now we can actually start running away from Jackie chasing after me. Like I mentioned, I didn't want to recreate everything one-to-one from the game, but I did want basic events. So Jackie is currently using an armor stand model based on top of a zombie, which is then obviously going to start chasing me because, well, that's what Minecraft zombies do. There is no jump scare. You saw that I was attacked a few times, as I think that would be a lot more annoying if all of a sudden you just get jump scared and then teleported somewhere random around the map. So I think for the time being, the Mimic is going to act like a normal zombie. But if you have any suggestions, feel free to let me know down in the comments. But until then, next we can go through this sequence underneath these tunnels here, where we flick these levers and then open up the iron bars in front of us, which is then going to take us down to the final part of the chase sequence, where we're not done just yet with Jackie. But I forgot to open up that door, so give me a sec. We're not done with Jackie just yet, as she appears one more time once we get to this part right here, and we can close the door to stop her from chasing after us, just like in-game. So that leaves the final part right here, where we enter the vent, which then brings us all the way back to the main storage room with the security office. Again, this is completely separate, so I did need to rely on a few teleport commands to make this work. However, I think you'll like the compromise that I've made here, as one of my favorite features from this is actually being able to see the warehouse through this vent system. So I've gone ahead and made a copy of the storage room, but pasted it underneath this vent system here. So we're still able to see all of the room, before we then get teleported out of the vent and end back up in the security office, just like the end of the chase sequence. Again, realistically, it would be this vent right here. However, if I go ahead and go out of bounds, you can see that it just doesn't work at all. I mean, in fairness, I haven't tried it, but there's a bunch of other rooms in the way that just wouldn't make this possible. So all of the Jackie sequences are down here, completely separated from the rest of the map. But now that we've gone through it all, let's actually take a look at some of the commands, as I realized there was a lot altogether, and I wasn't really able to explain it as things were happening. So the first thing we should probably take a look at is Jackie herself. So as you can see, when I was in spectator mode, there is a zombie and obviously an armor stand model built on top of it, and every time it walks, Jackie actually walks around with it. Just like the other Jackie in the box, this one does have an animation, but since it's going to be moving around, it needs a proper walking animation. Another important thing about this model is that it doesn't use any of the same names or tags as other entities inside the main map, meaning if the mimic is active in the main part of the factory, it isn't going to affect anything to do with Jackie, since again, I want two of those sequences to be active at once in case one person is on one area and one is at the other. So Jackie uses completely unique assets, meaning it's not going to get in the way of anything else in the map. But let me know what your thoughts are on this Jackie model. If I go ahead and stand next to it, you can see it's not a small one either. I don't think being in first person really shows off how big I've made these models, but I think I did a really good job at it, especially the way it's able to move around and such. I did originally want to make it a spider, so that way instead of a zombie it would be able to climb up on walls, but unfortunately when I made a spider invisible it had those glowing eyes that I wasn't able to get rid of, so unfortunately it's not going to be able to do that, but I still think this is a really good thing regardless. But that's enough of Jackie. Let's get back to looking at some of the other mechanics, like the elevator, which I basically completely skipped over. It was there 1 second and was gone the next, but as you might have guessed, this also uses clone commands, with all of these being the different frames, which are then copy and pasted into the build. Now, all of these command blocks here are actually what make it work, where you can see right here at the very start, it once again uses a scoreboard timer, where as the score keeps on increasing, it's going to copy a different frame up into the main build. Now in-game we're only able to go up the elevator, but here I wanted to make sure that we were able to go back down again. So there's actually 2 scoreboards for this, with one of them being the one that takes the elevator up, and the other one being the one that takes it back down again. So these use different scoreboard timers, but use the exact same frames, but just reverse it so that way it goes up or down, and vice versa afterward. Again, this all starts when I power this lever right here, so now when I do that, you can now see that each frame is being copied in an order that makes it look like I'm actually going up the elevator. Then if I push it again, it then takes us back down. Now for the first command system, I do need to add in some teleport commands, as obviously if I were to just do this normally, I would be staying in the same place and I would just clip through the floor. Now for the way down, it's not needed because gravity does the work for me, but I did need to set up some teleport commands to teleport me 1 block up along with the elevator. That way I'm actually standing on the platform and I'm able to get from floor 1 to floor 2. Now once the chase sequence is over, we obviously want to get back into the main MCM build. So what these 2 command blocks right here are first of all giving us a blindness effect, so that way it makes the transition a little better, before then teleporting me back into the security office once I get within a certain position in the vent. So that's what takes us exactly right here, where we're then able to go out of the security office and do whatever else we wanted to do in the build. And the thing is, I can't tell if this is a lot of command blocks or not, because you can notice that small features can take a lot of command blocks, but when you're making big sequences, it might not seem like a lot. Like, everything going on with just this Jackie right here is all of this, and to someone who's not as experienced with command blocks, this might look like a lot, and maybe this is just my experience showing where, like, this takes a while, but at the same time, it's like, it's not that many command blocks if I have to be honest with you. And I mean, when you look at what it's doing, it is doing a lot, which again is based on opinion because moving back and forth isn't a lot right now, but the fact I'm able to open and close the box is something that I thought was necessary in this map as well. Again, I am prioritizing optimization so that way there's not thousands of different models loaded in at once. Trust me, it would be bad for my computer as well, but when they're needed, I do want to make sure that they're actually going to show up. Now, I actually completely forgot to bring this up, so I want to do it now, where you'll have noticed that though this Jackie model does have sound effects connected to it, just like everything else in this map, it doesn't play the chase theme, which there's a few reasons why I didn't do that. Again, this isn't a scripted thing, this is purely just a free roaming model, meaning if the song were to constantly play, it wouldn't have the same tension as it does in game. So that's really the main reason, especially that it would get very annoying. I mean, these laughs are already getting out of hand, and they're only playing while the model is moving around. But the second reason is that I don't think it would be worth having that many extra command blocks. I mean, I've already talked about how armor stands can cause lag in maps, but so can command blocks, and I think it would be a bit much to have a full song playing. But let me know what you think down in the comments if there's any suggestions on things I could replace it with. Maybe one of the default Minecraft songs, just downpitch it so that way it could sound like a carnival chase sequence. I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are. Again, this map is still in development, it's not done just yet. Anything I do here is subject to change. But let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments. Again, this video was structured a little differently than normal, but I still had a lot of fun going through everything I've been working on and then showcasing how I got them to work in the first place. A lot of my focus on this map has been on the main events of the map, not some of the scripted sequences like what I've just shown off today. So if you guys enjoyed this enough, maybe I can come back later on and also add in some of the additional sequences around the map for not just Jackie, but some of the other main events that happen in the game. I'd love to be able to discuss this with you on a live stream, so make sure that you're subscribed to the channel with all notifications turned on. That way you don't miss out on the next one and can also stay up to date whenever I add in some new features just like this one. Finally, be sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed, but with all of that being said, thank you everyone so much for watching, and I will of course see you in my next video.